Good morning and welcome to another podcast, episode 5. I am just chucking away and having fun with it. Today I wanted to, well, I should say this morning, as you can tell, it's kind of, I actually wanted to close the curtains in here. I'm going to probably invest in getting a little better camera, but you know what? It's working and it looks good for the most part. I just got to set the lightings up a little better, but I don't think it's too bad. With that being said, today I wanted to talk about how to market yourself as a surfer in order to get sponsors, people to help you out, what they're looking for. I've been in this game for a really long time, and there's a lot of great things about having sponsors. There's a lot of, I would say, I don't want to say dark, but just the things that come with sponsors and being endorsed, and anything that becomes in a financial sense can get tricky at times. So I'm going to go about that a little bit. Some of the sponsors that I have had the privilege of working with for a long time throughout my surf career is Honolulu Surf Co., Excel wetsuits, Gayaki energy drinks at one point. I have Armitron watches, Virus Action Sports. These are all guys that I've worked with over the years. I am no longer riding for Honolulu Surf Co. I'm no longer riding for Gayaki energy drinks. Excel, we still have a relationship, but I haven't gotten product from them a long time. I started a surf school about 5 years ago, and I just kind of been focusing on surfing and myself. And, you know, COVID happened and a lot of things changed. But I was working with those companies for probably like 10 years. So, yeah, not trying to blow myself up or whatever. It's just to show you, like, I have been in this game for a while. I know how it works for the most part, and as things change, we also have to change. But the number one thing I would have to say, if you were trying to get a backing, all right, it has to, you know, unless, and it's hard to say, this is just the truth, unless you're just the guy or the girl, like you are just extraordinary in the sense of your surfing ability, you are absolutely just beyond your years, or you're just like excelling at surfing in a rate that most people aren't, it's probably unlikely sponsors are just going to flock to you and you're just going to be getting tons of money and backing, right? So with that being said, you have to look at it more. What can you offer this company in return, instead of, you know, this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm asking. And I think that's a big thing, you know. I feel like us as surfers, and even myself, and like I said with many of my podcasts, this is just mainly my experiences, and I'm not speaking for the general, but just me. But I'm sure people can relate. We, at some point, we kind of feel like entitled to like what we should be getting, or whatever it is, right? But at the end of the day, right, if you're trying to ask someone to financially help you or support you, or, you know, whatever it is, ideally, obviously, if you can find a company or a mentor, someone that is just super stoked on you and willing to work with you and believes in you, that's the ultimate goal, right? But most of the time, we have to really build those relationships, okay? And in surfing, and this is just in surfing, most of my channel is surfing, you know, health, fitness, more things for me. I'm not an expert in health and fitness and all those stuff, and my family and just stuff like that. I'm just building this channel, right? So we're just kind of like all learning as I go. But yes, I would say don't focus so much on what you want and more so what you can offer. That's the biggest advice I could give you when you're trying to get a sponsor or someone to help you out, okay? So nowadays with social media and Instagram and everyone's kind of doing it, right? People do this for a whole bunch of companies, right? What it really comes down to is obviously quality over quantity for the most part. But if you can, have your unique way, and there's so many different ways of editing right now and just kind of building exposure and marketing yourself, that's something they look at. Another thing that sponsors look at is, are you marketable? Can they market you? And that sounds a little weird. But yes, like, do you have the looks for them to market you? Could they use you for advertisement? Could they, it has to benefit their company. And this sounds a little weird and shady, and it is to a degree, because I've been there and I've done it, and it is kind of like, can kind of get a little weird at times. But sometimes people just, especially more on the youth side, like, guys just want to get like some free clothes and whatever it is, depending on where you're at. If you're, building results, or you're just like creating content and whatever it is, you always want to make it, what can you, as the person who is asking for financial backing, or maybe it's just product exchange, what can you offer? What can that company gain from giving you their hard-earned product or wanting to invest money into you, right? So it's grindy, but that's how you got to look at it. A lot of the times people, they feel a little entitled and they want to just go, I got first in this contest. I got first in this contest. I am third in my region, or I'm first in my region. And, I am doing these contests. It's $2,000 to travel here. And I want a budget for camera, and then, apparel, and just, people come off a little monotone. That sounds a little bit like maybe I'm coming off like an asshole, but like a lot of the times it's not like to that extent, but it kind of is more so like where it's like you list some results and it's really like, this is how much this costs, this is how much this costs, this is how much I want, and if you haven't really even established a relationship, most of the time companies nowadays, they don't care, bro. They don't give a shit. Like, for the most part, I would say a lot of companies, like if you're coming off with like that energy, trying to flex results and stuff, unfortunately, this isn't like the early 2000s or even the 90s, man. That's what it was, if you were winning contests constantly and first in your region or whatever it is, like that's kind of what your results would kind of speak for themselves. Nowadays it's a lot more complicated. It would be cool if that's kind of how it was, but this is cool too. We just have to adapt. But also, it gives a false sense of, how should I say? False sense when it comes to the surfing ability of a lot of people, right? But at the end of the day, it's what can this company gain? It has to benefit them, right? So, I would say, one, it's not about what you want, it's about what you can offer. And when you come at them with that right energy, then it becomes more of like, what can they get? They want to almost help you out. Another thing is be consistent. We have social media platforms. Maybe you don't even have a big following. Well, make sure the quality of your content is good. And, for me, my wife and I, 8 years ago, we invested into a camera. And she would come down and film, and for a while I was starting to learn Adobe Premiere, and I'd create my own content and stuff. And then obviously I have really good friends who are amazing. So I was fortunate in the sense of like, I have friends around me, but I know we all have that. So it's just like finding your ways of, being able to create good content and being able to use that as like, hey, if you're like, hey, I'm a surfer. This is what I do. This is some of the content that I put out. I love your apparel. I'd love to rock it. Maybe you have previous videos about another person you reached out to or whatever. That's really cool that they look at and they'll be like, dude, that's super sick. The thing is social media is very important nowadays. It's probably more so of how people market and put out their brands and stuff. So, and we all know, like, filmers and the cost of filmers and the cost of paying someone hourly and whatever it is it's super expensive. So it's no joke. You know what I mean? So if that's something you can offer in exchange for like product or maybe a little financial backing, however it is, if the company is looking for something like that, that's huge right there, right? Because what you're doing is you're saving that company thousands of dollars on investing into having to pay camera, like, you know, pay for a videographer, whatever it is. You're saving them that. And then also, you know, if you're presentable and you're easy to talk to or whatever it is, then it becomes like, oh man, this person is cool. Now you're offering like an awesome service, you know, you're marketable. And if you surf well, boom, wow, this person surfs really well. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to invest like into this person. They seem cool. They have a good head on their shoulders. I like their attitude. And then that's kind of how it goes, man. And it's, you know, and I can tell you, the biggest change that I like switched when I was younger until now is that's the biggest thing that I learned was it's not about what you can get from these people. It's about what you can offer. All right. And you really have to think about that. And when you can figure that out, then it becomes like, it's easy. It is, especially nowadays. So, yeah. And, sorry, I wrote some notes. I guess that's kind of what I wanted to go over, you know, this morning. You know, and the one thing I can say is don't get caught up so much with just headstrong about sponsors, you know, because it gets to a point where, like, even for me in my surf career, like, everything was kind of like, what could I do for the sponsors that I have rather than just going out and enjoying surfing, man. It's kind of like, I guess that's the dark side of it. You can get lost, you know, and, but at the end of the day too, always know your worth. You know, if a company's trying to lowball you or they're, you know, you feel like you can work with them and they're not willing to contribute a little bit more and you feel like, hey, man, I am going above and beyond and it's been the same, then that's not the right people to work with. And I think that's common sense. But don't be afraid to venture out and do things because there are, if you're going that route, you know, like for me right now, I'm focusing on just surfing and my health and my family. And, you know, I'm not really worried about trying to get sponsors and all this stuff. It's, you know, it's kind of a chapter that I wouldn't say that's closed, but it's past. So if that ever comes back up, it's the cool thing. There's always more chapters, right? Sorry, 1 second. So that's I think that's a really big, I don't want to say advice. Maybe it is. Maybe it's a big piece of advice, life advice. Yeah, you know, it's not what you can gain really, it's what you can offer, but it's almost like with that attitude, you'll be able to gain much more, you know? What else? I mean, that's kind of it. That's kind of what I wanted to go over. I thought that was just like, it was when I woke up this morning, I was kind of thinking about that, you know? But yeah, I would say the biggest thing is make sure you're having fun. Make sure that you're always progressing. If that's your goal in surfing, make sure to progress. Make sure that that's where your mentality is at. Don't get so headstrong on sponsorships, trying to do that stuff all the time. You get lost, you know, wanting to just get the shots and stuff. Like, surf, have fun, surf, prioritize that. And then, you know, make the time as well for these other fun things in life, such as sponsors. That's the route you're going. All right. Aloha. This has been fun. What is this? 15 minutes is crazy. You can just go on. If you have any questions, let me know. I hope this was helpful. All right. All right. Bye.